The introduction continued. There comes a moment in every man's life when the noise outside becomes unbearable, when the expectations, the failures, the comparisons, the heartbreaks, all blend into a single, suffocating fog. And in that fog, a man faces a question he cannot outrun. Who am I when everything external is stripped away? Most men stay trapped there. They numb the question with distractions. They bury it under obligations. They silence it with the approval of others. But a few, a very rare few, dare to step forward, not because they feel strong, not because they feel ready, but because something inside whispers, "You were not built to live asleep." This is where stoicism enters a man's life, not as a philosophy, not as a set of quotes, not as a trend, but as a mirror that reflects the truth you've avoided, the strength you've forgotten, and the discipline you abandoned the moment life became too heavy to carry with your bare hands. Stoicism does not care about your comfort. It does not negotiate with your excuses. It does not wait for you to be motivated. It demands that you rise quietly, consistently, relentlessly. Because a man who learns to master himself becomes untouchable, not by being emotionless, but by becoming unshakable. You're here because some part of you already knows this. Some part of you is tired of living soft, tired of reacting instead of choosing, tired of letting people, circumstances, and emotions pull you like a puppet. And so, you've stepped into this book, into this path, into this transformation, not to become perfect, but to become sovereign. Here, you will not be coddled. You will not be fed easy answers. You will not be given shortcuts. Instead, you will be given a way of living that has forged emperors, generals, fathers, warriors, thinkers, creators, and men who refuse to be swallowed by chaos. Each chapter is a weapon, each lesson a tool, each reflection a sharpening stone. Your only task is simple. Read slowly, meet the truth honestly, and choose the man you want to become every day. Before you step into the first lesson, there is one more truth you need to understand, one that most men never hear or hear too late. You are not starting from zero. You are starting from experience. Every mistake you've made, every person who left, every moment you collapsed under pressure, every time you betrayed your own potential, all of it has been preparing you for this exact moment. Stoicism is not here to erase your past. It's here to weaponize it. Because a man's strength is not built from his victories. It's built from the ruins he learned to rebuild himself from. And you have ruins. We all do. But what separates men who rise from men who break is their willingness to confront those ruins without flinching. So let this be the final promise you make to yourself before moving forward. From this point on, I face life as it is, not as I wish it to be. If you can commit to that, even imperfectly, you will feel something inside you shift. A quiet confidence, a clarity that doesn't shout, a discipline that doesn't boast, a strength that doesn't need to be seen to exist. This book will not give you a new life. It will give you the lens to finally see the one you were meant to live. A life where your emotions serve you, not sabotage you. A life where your mind is your ally, not your tormentor. A life where you lead yourself first, so no one else ever leads you astray. So breathe, settle in, relax your shoulders. You're stepping into the oldest battlefield a man will ever face, the war within himself. Law, Chapter 1. The first enemy is always you. Before we go any further, there's a truth every man must swallow. A truth bitter enough to sting, yet necessary enough to save your life. You have been your own greatest obstacle, not your past, not your parents, not the people who failed you, not the woman who broke you, not society, not your circumstances, you, your impulses, your excuses, your lack of discipline, your attachment to comfort, your fear of being uncomfortable, unseen, or unloved, your willingness to betray long-term greatness for short-term relief. But here's the good news. If you are the problem, then you are also the solution. Stoicism begins here, not with quotes, not with ideas, not with theories, but with self-confrontation. The kind of confrontation most men avoid their entire lives, because it requires you to look in the mirror without flinching. It requires you to admit that your life is not what it could be, not because life is unfair, but because you allowed yourself to drift. And drifting is the enemy of every man who was meant for more. So this first chapter is not about motivation. It is not about hype. It is not about making you feel good. It's about waking you up. You cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot conquer what you refuse to face. And you cannot become the man you imagine until you confront the man you've allowed yourself to be. This is where most men quit. This is where most men hide. This is where most men fold back into comfort and call it acceptance. But not you. You wouldn't be reading this if you were meant for an ordinary life. You feel that pull. You've felt it for years, maybe since childhood. That quiet voice in your chest that whispers, you were built for more than survival. So let this chapter be the line in the sand. From this point forward, your life is no longer ruled by impulse, no longer ruled by emotion, no longer ruled by the weaker version of you that you kept feeding because it felt easier than becoming a man of depth, presence, and discipline. This chapter is your invitation to reclaim the throne of your own mind. Stand up internally, straighten your back, look at the battlefield you've been avoiding. The first enemy stands before you, and his face is yours. The war you didn't know you were fighting. Most men walk through life unaware that a battle is happening inside them every single day. They think they're tired because of work. They think they're stressed because of bills. They think they're angry because of other people. They think they're lost because life is confusing. But the truth is simpler and far more uncomfortable. You are exhausted because you've been negotiating with your weaker self for years. Every morning, he whispers, stay in bed a little longer. Every temptation, he suggests, you deserve this. Every challenge, he murmurs, maybe tomorrow. Every opportunity, he questions, what if you're not ready? He pretends to care about your comfort. He pretends to protect you from failure. He pretends to be your friend, but he is the part of you that keeps you small. The part that fears discipline. The part that fears responsibility. The part that fears the weight of your own potential. And here's the catch. You've been listening to him every day, every week, every year, not because you are weak, but because he speaks the language of ease. And ease is seductive. Ease will offer you pleasure instead of purpose, comfort instead of clarity, avoidance instead of action. Ease will turn years into ashes. Stoicism forces you to see this inner enemy clearly. It forces you to separate the man you are from the man inside you who resists growth. Because once you see him, truly see him, you can no longer pretend he isn't there. And right here, in this moment, something begins to shift. You start recognizing his voice. You start catching him in the act. You start noticing when he tries to seduce you back into softness. That recognition alone is a win, because every battle you name becomes a battle you can win. You are not fighting the world. You are not fighting your circumstances. You are not fighting the people who disappointed you. You are fighting the part of you that prefers the comfort of who you were over the responsibility of who you could become. This is the real first step of Stoicism, not serenity, not calm, not emotionlessness, but sovereignty. Taking back control of your choices, your reactions, your impulses, your time, your life. And once you taste even a drop of that control, you never want to live without it again. Law 2. Master your emotions, or be mastered by them. There is a lie modern men have been fed since childhood, that strength means suppressing how you feel. But that isn't strength. That's emotional illiteracy, dressed as masculinity. Stoicism does not tell you to kill your emotions. It tells you to command them. Because here is the blunt truth. If you cannot control your emotions, someone else will. Your anger will make you impulsive. Your fear will make you passive. Your desire will make you blind. Your pride will make you breakable. Your loneliness will make you attached to the wrong people. Your insecurity will make you surrender your power to anyone who validates you. Most men never realize this. They are not acting. They are reacting. Reacting to childhood wounds. Reacting to old betrayals. Reacting to fears they inherited. Reacting to triggers they've never inspected. Reacting to women, to stress, to expectations, to chaos, without ever knowing why. They mistake that reactivity for personality, when in reality, it is a cage. Stoicism hands you the key. The first step: learn to observe before you act. Every time an emotion rises, you are standing at a fork in the road. You either respond with awareness or react with habit. That small space, that split second, is where sovereignty lives. A Stoic trains himself to widen that space, to pause, to breathe, to watch, not to suppress the emotion, but to understand it. Because the moment you observe an emotion, you are no longer owned by it. You've shifted from prisoner to commander. The second step: stop being led by the most emotional people around you. Most men don't realize something terrifying. You can be controlled by another person's emotional state just as easily as your own. If someone's anger makes you angry, you're controlled. If someone's anxiety makes you spiral, you're controlled. If someone's sadness drags you down, you're controlled. If someone's attention makes you addicted, you're controlled. Your emotional state is your kingdom. If anyone can invade it, you have no kingdom at all. A man who cannot regulate himself needs the world to behave perfectly just for him to stay calm. That is not strength. That is dependency. A Stoic creates calm from within, not because the world is peaceful, but because he is. The third step: understand that emotional discipline creates freedom. Most men think discipline is about routines, habits, or schedules. But the deepest discipline is emotional. The discipline to hold your tongue when anger flares, the discipline to stay steady when fear rises, the discipline to wait when impatience demands action, the discipline to walk away when desire clouds judgment, the discipline to stay aligned with your values, not your moods. Emotional discipline is freedom because it removes the chains that have been secretly binding you for years. Once you master this, conflict no longer rattles you, manipulation no longer hooks you, stress no longer bends you. You become steady, and in a world ruled by chaos, steadiness is power. The fourth step: let your emotions inform you, not control you. Your emotions are not the enemy. They are signals, messages, indicators. Your anger shows you where your boundaries are. Your fear shows you where you need preparation. Your jealousy shows you what you value. Your sadness shows you where healing is required. Your desire shows you where discipline must step in. Stoicism does not silence these messages. It decodes them. Because the moment you understand an emotion, it becomes a tool rather than a trap. And a man who can turn emotions into information becomes unshakable. The fifth step, your emotional state is a choice, even when it doesn't feel like one. Here's the hardest part to accept. Your emotional state is not determined by circumstances. It is determined by interpretation. Two men face the same event. One collapses, one grows stronger. Same storm, different inner world. This is why Stoics focus on perception. The lens through which you look at life matters more than what life hands you. If you can control the lens, you can withstand any storm. The law, in one sentence: master your emotions, and you master your life. Ignore them, and you will be ruled by them forever. Law 3, choose your hard, or life will choose it for you. Every man reaches a crossroads in his life where he realizes something painfully simple. There is no easy path. There are only two kinds of hard: the hard of discipline, or the hard of regret, the hard of pushing yourself, or the hard of hating yourself, the hard of building the life you want, or the hard of living with the one you settled for. Most men waste years searching for convenience, comfort, shortcuts, hacks, motivations, and moments of inspiration, never understanding that the path of least resistance is the path that destroys them slowly. Life is hard. You don't get to change that, but you do get to choose which hard you are willing to endure, and that choice will define your entire existence. Discipline is hard, but living without discipline is harder. Waking up early is hard, but waking up every day ashamed of yourself is harder. Saying no to pleasure is hard, but repairing the damage caused by indulgence is harder. Doing the work is hard, but living with the consequences of not doing it is harder. Discipline hurts you in the moment. Lack of discipline hurts you forever. A Stoic chooses the pain that builds him over the pain that breaks him. Responsibility is hard, but avoiding responsibility is harder. Taking ownership of your life is heavy. Carrying the weight of your failures is heavier. Responsibility forces you to grow. Avoidance forces you to decay. Most men think avoiding responsibility makes life easier, but all it does is make life smaller. Responsibility expands you. It sharpens you. It stretches your capacity. It forces you into strength you didn't know you had. Avoidance shrinks you. It rots your potential. It makes you a spectator in your own life. A man without responsibility is not free. He's fragile. A Stoic chooses the weight, because he knows that weight is what turns a man into something unbreakable. Self-respect is hard, but self-contempt is harder. Self-respect requires discipline, boundaries, consistency, and the willingness to disappoint others so you don't disappoint yourself. That's hard, but living with the sinking feeling that you are not who you could be, that you betrayed your own potential, that you abandoned your standards, that is far harder. A Stoic holds himself to a standard even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching, because he knows this truth. You meet the man in the mirror long before the world ever meets him. Building a life is hard, but watching it crumble is harder. It's hard to learn new skills, hard to push through discomfort, hard to stay focused, hard to sacrifice, hard to keep going when no one believes in you yet. But it is far harder to wake up in your 40s or 50s, realizing you wasted your time, your energy, your youth, your potential, and now life is demanding payment. You either pay in effort today or pay in regret tomorrow. One hurts now, the other hurts forever. A Stoic chooses the investment, not the debt. Comfort is hard, but growth is harder. This is the paradox modern men don't see. Comfort becomes hard in the long run because it secretly drains you. It dulls your edge, weakens your spirit, makes you passive, turns days into fog and years into dust. Growth is harder, yes, but it sharpens you. It gives you energy. It gives you purpose. It wakes your soul back up. A Stoic chooses the hard that transforms him, not the hard that destroys him. The law, in one sentence. You will suffer either way, so choose the suffering that makes you stronger. Chapter 4. Law 4. Your life reflects what you tolerate. Every man has a line, a threshold of what he will accept from himself, from others, and from the world. Most men never realize this line exists. They don't see it. They don't enforce it. They don't protect it. And so life slowly erodes them. Not through one catastrophic moment, but through 1,000 tiny permissions, each one weakening the spine, dulling the spirit, shrinking the man. Here is the truth most refuse to admit. Your life is not shaped by what you want. It is shaped by what you are willing to tolerate. You don't get what you dream about. You get what you allow. You get what you endure. You get what you make excuses for. Your standards, or the lack of them, determine the quality of your existence. You teach the world how to treat you every time you let something slide. You teach people that it's acceptable. Every time you stay silent, you teach them that your boundaries are optional. Every time you let disrespect pass, you teach them that your presence carries no consequences. You don't rise to the level of your expectations. You fall to the level of your enforcement. A Stoic knows this. He understands that boundaries are not walls. They are instructions, clear, grounded, calm instructions for how he expects to be treated and how he refuses to be treated. A man without boundaries will always live a life he secretly resents. What you tolerate in yourself becomes your identity. This is the harshest part. If you tolerate laziness, you will become lazy. If you tolerate excuses, you will become an excuse maker. If you tolerate inconsistency, you will become unreliable. If you tolerate chaos, you will become chaotic. Every small permission you give yourself is a thread. Pull enough of them and your entire identity unravels. But the opposite is also true. If you tolerate discipline, you become disciplined. If you tolerate discomfort, you become strong. If you tolerate responsibility, you become powerful. If you tolerate high standards, you become a man who embodies them. You are training yourself every day, intentionally or unconsciously. A Stoic trains with intention. Your environment obeys the standards. You enforce. You can tell a man's standards by looking at his room, his finances, his health, his relationships, his habits, his energy, his level of chaos or order, his consistency, his boundaries, his results. These are not accidents. These are reflections. A man who tolerates disorder lives in disorder. A man who tolerates disrespect attracts disrespect. A man who tolerates weak habits builds a weak life. The environment is not the problem. The environment is the mirror. Raise your standards, and your life has no choice but to rise with them. Here is the part most men misunderstand. You don't raise your life and hope your standards follow. You raise your standards and your life is forced to follow. This is why Stoics focus on principles. Principles compress chaos. Principles create clarity. Principles remove negotiations with your weaker self. Because once your standards harden, your old life cannot survive in the new atmosphere. Better people show up. Better habits replace the old ones. Better choices become natural. Better internal dialogue forms. Better results compound. You don't attract a higher life. You become a man who cannot live anything less. The law in one sentence. A man's life expands or collapses based on what he is willing to tolerate and what he refuses to tolerate ever again. Law 5. Emotions are tools, not masters. A man is often told, follow your heart or trust your feelings, and most men take this as gospel. They let every surge of anger, every spike of desire, every whisper of fear dictate their actions. They chase, they react, they overcommit, they over-apologize, all in the name of feeling. Here's the truth that separates men from boys. Emotions are indicators, not instructions. They are signals from the body and mind, but they are never the roadmap to wise action. The Stoic mindset on emotions. A Stoic does not ignore emotions. He does not suppress them. He does not pretend they don't exist. He observes them. He names them. He understands what they are telling him. And then he decides, deliberately, what to do next. Anger is not a command to lash out. It is a signal that a boundary has been crossed. Fear is not a sign to run. It is a signal that preparation is needed. Desire is not a demand to indulge. It is a signal that a goal or value has been triggered. Emotions are data. The wise man uses the data, but he never lets it drive the vehicle of his life. Why most men fail here. Most men allow emotions to dictate behavior because it feels authentic. They argue in anger, thinking truth is only proven through intensity. They chase in love, thinking love is proven through desperation. They cave under pressure, thinking survival is proven through submission. And each time, they hand over their power. Each time, they let temporary impulses determine permanent consequences. Stoicism teaches that power comes from mastery over self, not over circumstances. Emotions serve the man who controls them. Imagine this. A storm hits your city. You cannot stop the rain, the wind, or the lightning, but you can choose to sit in a safe room, to prepare, to act wisely. Your emotions are the storm. Your discipline, your reason, your self-mastery are the safe room. When a man controls his emotions, he is no longer a slave to the chaos of the world. He becomes unshakable. He can face betrayal without breaking. He can face loss without collapsing. He can face desire without surrendering. Mastery over emotions is not coldness. It is clarity. It is strength. It is freedom. How to train emotional mastery. Observe without attachment. Feel your emotion fully, but do not act immediately. Name it. This is anger. This is disappointment. This is desire. Identify the message. Ask, what is this emotion telling me about my values, my boundaries, or my goals? Delay action. Never make decisions in the heat of feeling. Wait. The impulse will pass, but your wisdom will remain. Respond with purpose. Once you understand the signal, take action from clarity, not chaos. Let your choices reflect your standards, not your spikes of sensation. The reward of mastery. A man who masters his emotions commands respect effortlessly, gains influence without coercion, maintains peace in chaos, turns setbacks into lessons, navigates relationships with clarity instead of reaction. Emotional mastery does not remove the storms of life. It removes the power of the storm to destroy you. Law 5, in one sentence, emotions are tools to guide, not chains to bind. Mastery over them is the true measure of a man. Law 6, actions speak louder than words. Here's a truth most men fail to grasp. Talk is cheap. Words without follow-through are empty. Promises without proof are illusions. A man's value is measured not by what he says, but by what he does. The illusion of verbal validation. In modern culture, many men believe that compliments prove love, texts prove commitment, explanations prove loyalty. But words alone are meaningless. Anyone can say anything. Even the weakest man can sound confident. Even the most dishonest man can sound caring. The world doesn't remember what you said. It remembers what you built. It remembers what you delivered. It remembers how you acted when it mattered most. The Stoic approach. A Stoic doesn't boast about virtue, he lives it. He doesn't promise courage, he faces fear. He doesn't promise patience, he endures trials without complaint. He doesn't promise loyalty. He stays steadfast when others waver. The man who masters this principle becomes invisible to shallow judgment. He no longer needs approval to prove worth. His actions alone command recognition. Why words often fail men? Men fail here because they confuse effort with outcome. They talk about being strong instead of building strength. They talk about love instead of showing it through consistency. They talk about success instead of producing results. Words can be ignored, dismissed, or misinterpreted. Action cannot. Action leaves a mark. How to make your actions speak. Do more than you say. If you claim to value health, exercise. If you claim to value growth, read and learn. If you claim to value relationships, show up consistently. Keep promises small and sacred. Over-promising and under-delivering destroys trust. Instead, under-promise and over-deliver. Lead by example. Others will follow the man who demonstrates what he preaches. Influence comes from visible discipline, not persuasive speech. Act with integrity, even when unseen. The true measure of a man is what he does when no one is watching. The power of silent action. Sometimes, the most powerful statements are made without words. Showing up consistently when others vanish. Handling conflict calmly while others rage. Maintaining composure when chaos surrounds you. This kind of man does not need to announce his value. The world feels it. Those around him notice it, even subconsciously. And those who tried to take him for granted are left questioning why he is suddenly untouchable. Law 6. In one sentence, a man's worth is revealed through his deeds, not his declarations. Let your life be the loudest statement you ever make. Law 7. The power of strategic absence. Here's a principle that separates men who are remembered from men who are forgotten. Your presence is powerful. Your absence is even more so when wielded intentionally. Why absence works. Many men fear being absent. They equate leaving, stepping back, or pausing attention with weakness or rejection. Here's the truth. Presence without value is invisible. Absence with purpose creates recognition. People rarely notice what they have until it's gone. Think of the lighthouse, standing tall, steadfast. It's taken for granted by sailors who are always near. Only when the storm hits and the safety it provides is gone do they realize its worth. The same principle applies to men in life, love, and influence. Strategic absence versus avoidance. There's a key distinction. Avoidance is fear-driven. It's running from discomfort, responsibility, or confrontation. Strategic absence is choice-driven. It's stepping back with awareness for maximum impact, clarity, or personal growth. A man who masters strategic absence does not disappear out of anger or insecurity. He withdraws to observe, reflect, and let the world feel his value. How to master absence? Choose timing wisely. Don't vanish impulsively. Absence must be calculated, not emotional. It must serve a purpose, reflection, growth, or resetting dynamics. Maintain calm and dignity. Absence is never dramatic. It's not a tantrum. It's quiet, controlled, and composed. Let your presence have meaning. When you are around, your attention is intentional. When you are absent, your absence carries weight. Observe reactions, not manipulate them. Absence is not a weapon to punish. It's a mirror for others to see the gaps you fill in their lives. The psychological effect: when a man steps back strategically, people start to notice patterns they once ignored. Value becomes clearer because contrast exists. Dependence on him becomes conscious, not unconscious. Absence triggers reflection. Why is he not here? I miss the calm he brings. I took his consistency for granted. This isn't manipulation. It's truth revealed through space. Stoic insight. Stoicism teaches we cannot control others, only ourselves. To act with virtue is enough. By stepping back, you're not controlling anyone. You're allowing reality to reflect itself. Your value becomes evident, not by effort, but by natural contrast. Law 7, in one sentence. The man who masters strategic absence commands attention and respect, not by noise, but by the weight his absence carries. Law 8, the art of emotional restraint. Here's a truth most men overlook. Your power is in your ability to stay unshaken, not in your ability to react. Why emotional restraint matters. Most men give away their power the moment they react impulsively. A harsh word in anger, a desperate message seeking validation, an overreaction to perceived slights. Every reaction signals need, instability, or lack of control. And people, whether in business, relationships, or social circles, sense it immediately. Emotional restraint is not suppression. It's not pretending you don't feel. It's mastering the ability to choose your response every single time. The principles of emotional restraint. Pause before reacting. Give yourself time to process the emotion. Ask, will this reaction serve me or serve them? Respond, don't react. A reaction is immediate and uncontrolled. A response is measured, intentional, and deliberate. Use silence as leverage. Often saying nothing communicates more than words. Silence carries authority when paired with calm presence. Focus on your inner world. The less you allow external events to dictate your state, the stronger you become. Control your emotions. Don't let others control them for you. Why this works in love and life. Imagine two men. Man A chases validation, reacts impulsively, seeks approval. Man B controls reactions, preserves dignity, values composure. Who do people respect more? Who is remembered? Man B. Every time. Emotional restraint transforms ordinary presence into magnetic presence. People are drawn to stability. Chaos repels them. Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Your power does not come from controlling the world. It comes from mastering your response to it. Practical exercise. Next time someone triggers irritation, pause. Take 3 deep breaths. Respond calmly or not at all, if no response is required. Observe how your restraint changes the dynamics. Over time, people will feel your energy before you even speak. Your calm becomes your authority. Your control becomes your magnet. Law 8. In one sentence, the man who masters emotional restraint turns every reaction into influence and every silence into respect. Law 9. The value of unseen work. Here's the truth most men never understand. The world rewards results, not effort that seeks applause. Why unseen work is powerful. Everyone wants recognition. Everyone wants to be celebrated for their grind. But the reality is, true power is built in silence, away from the spotlight. The man who constantly posts, brags, or seeks acknowledgement is often exhausted and shallow. The man who works quietly, consistently, and strategically is unnoticed until unstoppable. Unseen work creates momentum. Small, consistent actions accumulate into massive results. Authority, mastery doesn't need a witness to validate it. Magnetism, people are drawn to those who are competent, not performative. Principles of unseen work, consistency. Over recognition, daily effort compounds faster than sporadic displays of skill. You don't need applause to progress. Results speak for themselves. Master your craft quietly. Improve your skills, mind, and body without broadcasting every step. The man who prepares silently surprises dramatically. Let outcomes do the talking. Instead of bragging about effort, let achievements reveal your work. Influence grows when results arrive before explanation. Protect your energy. Avoid wasting emotional bandwidth trying to impress others. Focus on impact, not approval. Why this works in relationships and life. Think about relationships. People rarely notice consistent emotional support, patience, or subtle acts of care until it stops. The man who quietly builds his life, maintains his boundaries, and grows internally becomes irreplaceable. When others finally notice, it's not the effort they miss, it's the stability, calm, and mastery he embodies. In life, work, and love, invisible effort compounds into visible influence. Stoic perspective Seneca taught, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Every day spent chasing recognition is time wasted. Every day spent building silently is a day invested in unshakable value. Practical exercise. Identify one area of your life where you've been seeking validation. Remove the audience. Stop posting, explaining, or seeking approval. Commit to doing the work quietly for 30 days. Observe the difference in your focus, discipline, and influence. Law 9 in one sentence. The man who values unseen work multiplies his influence quietly, letting results, not applause, define his worth. Law 10. The power of selective exposure. The men who move through life with influence, confidence, and calm mastery understand a simple truth. You are the sum of what you expose yourself to. Everything you allow in, people, media, conversations, distractions, either elevates you or erodes you. Why selective exposure is crucial. Most men live life reacting to what's thrown at them. They scroll endlessly, respond to every message, entertain every opinion, and absorb every emotion around them. This creates noise, fatigue, and a loss of control. It prevents growth because your energy is diluted. The man who controls his exposure chooses what enters his mind, heart, and focus. He protects his peace, preserves his energy, and maximizes his impact. Principles of selective exposure. People are energy. Not everyone deserves your time, attention, or emotional bandwidth. Some are drains, some are drivers. Learn to tell the difference. Spend time with those who challenge, elevate, and inspire, not those who complain, drain, or distract. Media shapes mindset. Social feeds, news, and entertainment programs influence your beliefs and moods. Consume deliberately. Ask yourself, does this educate me, uplift me, or sharpen me? Guard your thoughts. Internal dialogue is just as important as external input. Avoid ruminating on negativity, envy, or distractions. Instead, focus on growth, strategy, and skill. Set boundaries without explanation. Saying no to energy vampires or unnecessary obligations is a power move. You don't owe anyone a justification for protecting your time. The ripple effect, selective exposure, doesn't just protect you, it amplifies your influence. When you surround yourself with high-value individuals, your standards rise naturally. When you limit low-quality input, your clarity, creativity, and presence become sharper. Others notice. They feel the difference between the man who is distracted and reactive and the man who is focused, grounded, and self-directed. Think about relationships. People often miss your value until your energy is scarce. Now imagine coupling that with selective exposure. Your energy is reserved for only the deserving, the aligned, and the serious. The result? You become irreplaceable, not because you perform, but because your presence is rare, controlled, and powerful. Stoic perspective, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Happiness, growth, and influence are not about adding more. They're about filtering, refining, and protecting what you allow. Practical exercise. Audit your inner circle. Identify who drains and who elevates. Audit your media diet. Remove anything that feeds fear, envy, or distraction. Set a 30-day challenge to limit exposure to only people, inputs, and content that support your growth. Observe how your focus, energy, and results change. Law 10. In one sentence, the man who masters selective exposure controls his energy, sharpens his mind, and amplifies his presence by allowing only what serves his growth. Law 11. The authority of presence. Some men command rooms without saying a word. Others scream to be noticed but remain invisible. The difference isn't wealth, power, or charm. It's presence. Presence is the unspoken authority of a man who is grounded, self-assured, and in control of his energy. It's the magnetic pull that draws attention, respect, and influence naturally. Why presence matters. People react to energy before words. A man who projects calm and confidence doesn't need to explain himself. His energy speaks louder than arguments, text messages, or social media posts. When you cultivate presence, your decisions carry weight. Your absence is felt more than your attention. Your calm becomes a standard others unconsciously compare themselves to. Key components of presence. Grounded energy. You move with intention, not chaos. You speak when necessary, act when necessary, and remain calm under pressure. People notice stability and gravitate toward it because it signals strength and reliability. Controlled reactions. Authority isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. Emotional reactivity diminishes presence. Measured responses amplify it. Confidence without boast. A truly present man doesn't need to brag. His actions, decisions, and demeanor convey competence and self-respect. Attention to detail. Your body language, tone, eye contact, and posture communicate more than words ever could. Presence is both internal and external. It's felt before it's described. How presence transforms relationships. Imagine two men. Man A constantly explains, defends, and justifies himself. Man B speaks minimally but moves with calm certainty? Which one commands respect? Which one leaves a lasting impression? People naturally follow, listen, and respect the man whose presence exudes clarity and control. Words become optional. Energy carries the message. Stoic perspective on present Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." A man who seeks approval, validation, or constant acknowledgement lacks presence. A man grounded in his own value doesn't need to explain, prove, or perform. His presence alone communicates authority. Practical exercise to cultivate presence: mindful posture. Stand and walk with shoulders back, head high, and purposeful movements. Controlled speech. Speak less, say more. Every word should carry weight. Observant awareness. Listen more than you speak. Notice energy, not just words. Emotional mastery. Practice responding calmly in stressful situations rather than reacting impulsively. Law 11 in one sentence. The man who masters presence commands attention, respect, and influence without uttering a single unnecessary word. Law 12. The strategic withdrawal. Sometimes the most powerful action is the one you don't take. Sometimes the strongest move is stepping back rather than stepping forward. This is the essence of strategic withdrawal. It's not about giving up, ignoring, or being passive. It's about knowing when your presence serves you and when it diminishes your power. Why withdrawal works. People often only value what they cannot have. Your constant availability can create familiarity, which often leads to underappreciation. Withdrawal introduces space, absence, and perspective, forcing others to reckon with your value. When used wisely, withdrawal can reassert boundaries. You show that your time, energy, and attention are non-negotiable. Create anticipation. Absence makes people notice the void your presence leaves. Amplify self-respect. Choosing when to engage or disengage signals control over your own life. The psychology behind it: humans are wired to chase what feels scarce. When someone is always there, their value becomes background noise. When you step back, the mind takes stock of what was once taken for granted. Withdrawal is not manipulation, it's self-preservation. You're not punishing anyone, you're prioritizing yourself. It's the difference between reactive desperation and deliberate restraint. How to execute strategic withdrawal. Step back, not out, reduce unnecessary contact and exposure, avoid explaining your absence. Let it speak for itself. Redirect energy, fill your time with growth, fitness, work, or passions. Let your development do the talking. Stay calm, stay grounded. Your absence is an opportunity for reflection, not a weapon. Be consistent. Random withdrawal looks like indecision or instability. Strategic withdrawal is intentional, measured, and disciplined. Stoic perspective on withdrawal. Marcus Aurelius said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." Stepping back is about choosing peace over chaos, control over desperation, and value over validation. The moment you stop trying to force attention, love, or respect, you reclaim your inner authority. Others will feel the absence, not as punishment, but as reality. Strategic withdrawal in action. Imagine a man in a relationship, business, or friendship. He's constantly giving, always available, always over-explaining. People take him for granted, unaware of the effort sustaining them. Then he pulls back, stops texting first, reduces availability, focuses on his growth. The shift is almost immediate. His energy is missed, his absence highlights his true value. Others begin to reflect on what they lost or failed to appreciate. Withdrawal isn't about ego or revenge. It's about letting reality catch up to your worth. Law 12, in one sentence, the man who knows when to step back amplifies his power, asserts his value, and lets absence reveal what presence never could. Law 13, the discipline of desire. Desire is a double-edged sword. Left unchecked, it enslaves you to emotions, whims, and external validation. Controlled and disciplined, it becomes the engine of power, focus, and growth. This is the law of discipline over desire. It's about mastering impulses before they master you. Why desire can be dangerous. Humans are naturally wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. But most people never learn to distinguish productive desires from destructive ones. Desire for instant gratification leads to dependency on others for validation. Desire unchecked creates emotional volatility, chasing highs, fearing lows. Desire without discipline results in chaos in relationships, finances, and life purpose. If you want freedom, you must govern your desires instead of letting them govern you. The Stoic foundation, Seneca said, "A man is as much a slave to his desires as he is to his fears." This law teaches that mastery over desire equals mastery over self. The disciplined man chooses actions based on principle, not impulse. He does not act for fleeting pleasure, but for long-term power, peace, and respect. The three pillars of desire: discipline, recognition. Identify your desires: emotional, material, relational. Ask, is this desire serving my growth, or is it distracting me from it? Restraint, delay, gratification. Resist the urge to overextend, overexplain, or overconsume. Redirection channel, desire into productive energy. Fitness, learning, career. Self-mastery, transform lust, greed, or envy into fuel for creation, not destruction. Practical application, imagine desire as a wild horse. Without discipline, it drags you off course, reckless and exhausted. With discipline, it becomes a powerful steed, taking you where you want to go. In relationships, don't chase affection or validation. Desire is acknowledged, but not acted upon impulsively. Let your actions be guided by principle, not the compulsion to satisfy fleeting wants. In life and work, desire for success is normal, but chasing instant recognition can destroy credibility and focus. Discipline allows sustained effort and exponential growth. The power of absence and discipline. Combined, remember law. 12. Strategic withdrawal. Discipline of desire builds on it. You withdraw not from weakness, but from uncontrolled impulses. You stay calm, not because you're indifferent, but because your desires are intentional and directed. Your silence, your absence, your composure, all are powered by mastery over your wants. The man who controls desire becomes irreplaceable, respected, and unshakable. His energy is magnetic because it is focused, deliberate, and self-contained. Law 13, in one sentence. He who disciplines his desires becomes the master of his life, unshaken by chaos, untempted by distraction, and irresistible through his very self-control. Law 14, the power of presence. Presence is invisible authority. It's the energy you radiate, not the words you speak. Many men confuse loudness with influence. The truth? Quiet, disciplined presence commands more respect than any argument, speech, or display. This is Law 14, mastering the power of your presence. Why presence matters. Think about people you naturally respect. It's rarely because they shout the loudest or demand attention. It's because their energy communicates confidence, discipline, and self-possession. Their presence fills the room without effort, and people instinctively notice and follow. Presence is the culmination of everything you've built. Silence and detachment. Law 12. Discipline of desire. Law 13. Clarity and self-mastery. Previous laws. The three dimensions of presence. Emotional presence. You remain calm under pressure, unaffected by chaos around you. People feel stability when near you. They feel grounded. Physical presence. Your posture, movement, and energy communicate power, focus, and intent. Small gestures, standing tall, deliberate movements, eye contact, convey authority without a word. Intellectual presence. Thoughtful insight and measured speech command respect. You speak less, but when you do, it resonates deeply. Presence is strategic. Presence is not about showing off. It's about being fully yourself, fully grounded, fully disciplined. People notice absence first, but presence solidifies influence. Presence is magnetic because it is intentional and consistent. Your energy communicates, I am here, I am grounded, I am in control. Practical ways to build presence. Master your composure. Don't react to petty chaos or emotional triggers. Let stillness speak louder than words. Be fully engaged, selectively. When present, give full attention. When withdrawing, do so with dignity. Your absence is felt, not forced. Control your environment. Surround yourself with people, habits, and spaces that elevate your energy. Avoid noise that drains your focus or dilutes your aura. Speak with purpose. Fewer words, higher impact. Speak only to teach, inspire, or assert authority, never to seek approval. The ripple effect of presence. A man with presence changes the dynamic of every room. He doesn't need to demand attention. It naturally comes. People respect him not because they fear him, but because they sense his mastery. Presence makes your absence noticeable and your return impactful. Law 14. In one sentence, he who masters his presence commands respect without demanding it, influences without speaking, and leaves a mark that lingers long after he departs. Law 15. The art of strategic patience. Patience is not waiting. Patience is strategic waiting. Most men mistake patience for passivity. Real power lies in knowing when to act and when to hold back. This is Law 15, mastering the timing of your actions. Why strategic patience matters. People rush decisions, chase validation, and force outcomes. You, however, act with precision, not impulsivity. Timing transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Think of water cutting through rock. It's not brute force, it's persistent, patient, strategic application. Power is in knowing when to flow and when to pause. The three pillars of strategic patience: self-control, delay gratification, do not act on every impulse. Emotional restraint is a signal of strength, not weakness. Observation study situations before acting. Understand the motives, habits, and triggers of those around you. Timing your move increases impact exponentially. Calculated action. When the moment is right, act decisively. Your patience amplifies the effect of your actions, making them memorable and influential. How to practice strategic patience. Detach from urgency. Most people live under the illusion that immediate action equals success. Slow down. Observe. Respond. Don't react. Master timing. In relationships, speak only when your words hold weight. Withdraw only when your absence creates awareness. Wait for clarity before making decisions that affect your life or emotions. Control your energy investment. Stop giving away effort to situations or people that aren't ready. Save your energy for moments that maximize return and influence. The power of pausing. Silence is a tool of patience. Waiting strategically creates mystery, respect, and anticipation. People notice absence more when it's purposeful. Patience ensures your energy is never wasted and your influence is never diluted. Law 15, in one sentence. He who masters strategic patience waits with purpose, moves with precision, and achieves far more in silence than the impatient achieve in noise. Law 16, the power of boundaries. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define your worth, protect your energy, and demand respect. Most men lose themselves by being too available, too eager to please, too willing to sacrifice their peace for someone else's approval. Law 16 is about drawing your lines clearly and holding them without apology. Why boundaries are essential. They define your value. Without boundaries, people assume your energy, time, and respect are infinite. Setting limits communicates without words that you are not disposable. They protect your energy. Emotional, mental, and physical energy are finite resources. Boundaries prevent others from draining you before you've even reached your peak. They command respect. People test limits unconsciously. When you consistently enforce boundaries, others adjust their behavior or remove themselves, leaving only those aligned with your values. The 3 pillars of boundaries. Clarity. Know what you will and will not accept. Write it down if necessary. Your limits should be crystal clear to yourself before you communicate them to others. Consistency. Enforce your boundaries every time they are tested. Inconsistency signals weakness and invites repeated violations. Detachment. Boundaries aren't about controlling others, they are about controlling yourself. Detachment ensures you remain unshaken, even when others resist or react negatively. Practical ways to set boundaries. Time boundaries. Limit availability to people and situations that demand more than they give. Protect your schedule as if it were gold, because it is. Emotional boundaries. Avoid absorbing other people's drama or stress. Recognize that you can care without carrying. Communication boundaries. Say what you mean what you say, and never feel guilty for asserting limits. Silence can sometimes be the strongest boundary. The power effect boundaries create magnetism. People are drawn to what is rare and untouchable. Your energy is no longer a given, it's earned. The world will test you. Some will resist. That's exactly the point. If they value you, they will adapt to your standards. If they don't, they will fall away, leaving room for those who align with your energy. Law 16, in one sentence. He who masters boundaries protects his energy, amplifies his value, and shapes his world without aggression or apology. Law 17, the art of controlled absence. Presence is powerful, but absence is even more strategic when wielded intentionally. Law 17 is about knowing when to step back, when to be scarce, and how your absence can amplify your value. Why absence is a tool. Most men remain too available, giving energy, attention, and care without pause. This creates overfamiliarity, and humans often take for granted what is always present. Controlled absence is not about punishment or games. It's about creating space for reflection, respect, and appreciation. The psychology of absence. Scarcity increases value. When something is abundant, it's often overlooked. When it becomes scarce, suddenly its importance becomes clear. Reflection breeds realization. Absence forces others to confront what they've lost or taken for granted. It creates awareness that your presence is not replaceable. Independence commands respect. When you withdraw without neediness, it signals that your happiness and self-worth are not dependent on them. The principles of controlled absence. Intentionality. Step back with a purpose, not out of anger or revenge. Your absence should have clarity of mind behind it, not emotional chaos. Timing. Absence works best when it is measured and consistent, not erratic. Sudden disappearance without reason may confuse or repel rather than teach. Discipline resists the urge to over-explain or overcompensate. Silence speaks louder than words when coupled with unshakable self-respect. Practical applications of controlled absence. In relationships, pull back from over-communicating or over-pleasing. Let your partner or potential partner feel the weight of your energy missing, not as a punishment, but as a mirror to their own investment. In friendships, stop being the constant fixer or enabler. Step away to see who values you for your essence, not your labor. In professional life, don't always be the first to answer every call or over-deliver unnecessarily. Controlled absence demonstrates value and self-prioritization, not laziness. The effects of mastered absence. People start noticing the consistency and depth they overlooked. Your absence is not emptiness, it's a mirror, showing what life feels like without your energy. Those who truly value you adjust their behavior, while those who don't naturally drift away. Law 17. In one sentence, he who knows when to withdraw strengthens his presence, commands respect, and allows absence to speak louder than words ever could. Conclusion. Mastery through silence, detachment, and self-worth. The journey through these laws isn't about manipulation or cold detachment. It's about self-mastery, respect, and intentional living. You've learned that. Presence is powerful, but absence is strategic. By stepping back, you allow others to recognize your value without force. Detachment is strength. Caring deeply doesn't mean losing yourself in the process. True power lies in loving without attachment. Silence speaks volumes. When words fail to convey your worth, your energy, boundaries, and calm presence do the talking. Clarity is liberation. Being clear about your value, boundaries, and intentions commands respect and fosters authentic connections. Self-worth cannot be begged for. The highest form of love is offered without the need for validation. In life, people will only appreciate what they can't control. Your growth, peace, and integrity are your most potent tools. The man who walks away with dignity, who lets go without bitterness, and who stands in his own power is unforgettable, not because he chased, but because he became the standard others could no longer ignore. So, carry this with you. Your silence, your stillness, your boundaries, and your presence are your greatest leverage. Let them reflect your worth back to you. Let them see the man you've become, not in desperate pursuit, but in composed, undeniable reality. The truth is simple. You are not here to be chased, bargained for, or taken for granted. You are here to rise, to grow, and to walk in your power. And when you do, the world will notice, not because you demanded it, but because your presence has always spoken louder than words.